it's weird praise for the show to be like, well, it's good this wasn't animated well.
Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on. Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on. Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on. Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on. Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on.
Run. Welcome to Pottages, your friendly 8-legged dog bus companion through the 2020 Digimon Adventure reboot. This week we're discussing episode 36, Operation Satellite Sniper. I'm your host, Jeff Ruberg, and for my guest this week, I am excited to welcome back Daniel Dockery, senior staff writer for Crunchyroll. Thanks for coming back on the show, Daniel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So it's been, I guess, about like 14 weeks since you were last on, when we had the Weregurumon Sagittarius mode.
Yeah, it's been a few months. Yeah.
And in episode 22. So how have you felt about the show since then?
It's kind of become like a comfort food watch, I guess. I think all hopes that it would be like radically different from the original, or that it would, be like the super inspiring thing that we saw in the first 3 episodes have kind of been dashed. But that doesn't mean that it's, not just a pleasant Digimon romp with a lot of stuff that I like about it and a lot of stuff I don't like about it. So
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Like, I've long since lost any hopes or expectations of it being smart in a lot of ways, but still, like, it's still fun. It's still comfort food.
Yeah, that's how I kind of feel. I feel like we'll get into the more detailed about it as we go through the episode, but why that is.
Have you been generally, like, watching every single week as soon as it comes out, or, like, waiting for batches and then watching a chunk at a time?
With this last one, I watched a chunk at a time because I had stopped, I think, 2 episodes after, or the episode after the big War Greymon reveal, or the big War Greymon sequence. And after that, I figured that I could wait for the next 5 episodes, and I just kind of ran them off yesterday and today. So,
Did you feel like it was better or worse watching in chunks versus week to week?
I feel like if this was more like a water cooler show, it would be better week to week. But I don't have that many people I'm discussing it with.
Mm-hmm.
So watching it in batches is okay. It doesn't really ruin the story. Again, it's very much like I'll put it on, and I'm not. It's not a show I need to take notes on, which is for better or for worse. So
yeah, that makes sense. I feel like even when like the moments that are like quote unquote water cooler discussions are like, wow, War Greymon looks cool. Here's this GIF, and that's it. So
I also think that there's, like, especially over the last few episodes, there's been a little bit of an uptick, I think, in the quality of animation, mostly in the fact of how many times they show somebody's claws digging into somebody else's armor or skin. That's been a big thing recently. The animators have really fallen in love with that over the past few weeks. But the first episode I watched to catch back up this morning was the one where War Greymon, I think, was taking on Gokumon.
Oh yeah.
And he plunges the hole in Gokumon's chest and then does his Gaia Force, like, into the hole, which I was like, that's kind of cool. That's a very, like, that's very much like the story doesn't really necessitate this. It doesn't really make sense because it's not really Gaia Force, I guess. But it's very much like an animator and a director being like, what would be really cool if he did this? And I feel like sometimes the action scenes, that's what's keeping me going, especially the action scenes, is every once in a while I get the feeling that there's like an excitement over, like, yo, would it be awesome if we had him do, insert cool fight scene tactic? And I can appreciate that.
Yeah. I feel like even when the animation is a bit limited, they still are doing. They're still taking advantage of that, like, visceralness of fights that is kind of unique to the season. So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's jump on a Commandamon and dive into this week's episode, or jump up. Anyway, episode 36, Operation Satellite Sniper, aka Operation Upstage Koshrio, aka 4 Minutes by Madonna, aka To the Moon.
I'm glad I saw you on Twitter making that 4-minute song. I remember when that song came out, I think I was a freshman in college, and I got super into bum bum bum. I'm out of time, and only goes 4 minutes. Tick 4 minutes. Hey,
I feel like that song's a curse. Like, every time I hear anyone say 4 minutes, that song plays in my head, and it's like, can't get it out.
Yeah, it's like, I remember I played it, and my roommate Zach at the time was like, "This song sucks. Do not play this song again." But I think I like it. I'm glad that I haven't listened in 13 years now, so I'm glad to be reminded of it.
Yes, I don't think I'd listened to it in quite a while, so I had to listen to it to find a screenshot of it, and I was like, oh wow, the song still slaps. But, yeah, so we're going to be talking about everything in the Crunchyroll episode, including the title and preview for next episode, and also everything from Adventure is fair game for spoilers, but we will not be talking about any titles or synopses beyond next week, which is relevant again because the titles and synopses for episodes 38 and 39 are out there on the internet if you want to find them. Also, if we talk about any big spoilers for other seasons, we'll give you fair warning. So yeah, this week, what happens? The dog boss picks up Koshiro. He explains the plan to fly up and snipe the ISS from this big pillar of light thing. They're attacked by Blade Kuwagamon along the way. Everyone involves the Ultimate, they push past it. Then Metal Life Kuwagamon appears. First, Takara and Akari stay behind, fighting the Blade Kuwagamon. Then Sora also stays behind. Then Metal Life Kuwagamon pushes Metal Greymon into the pillar of light. And Metal Greymon evolves into Blitz Greymon, and he also stays behind, so it's just Koshiro left to keep going up, and he reflects on how far he's come, has this little weird homage to the original show we'll talk about, I'm sure, and then shoots at the last second, and the ISS lands safely in Tokyo Bay. Yeah, that is one of the quickest recaps, because I feel like this episode, formula-wise, is very, very straightforward. Literally, they're just going straight the whole episode, so...
Well, they come to a pillar of light that hasn't been referenced before in the series, and Gatomon is like, we should focus on this, and then they do.
Yeah, Tailmon's like, oh, that pillar of light, and it's like, you're a little biased. I mean, you go for everything light, but...
So, first things first, I realize the biggest character casualty of this entire series is Sora.
Oh, yeah.
Not just because, like, the Birdramon evolution fiasco of 2020.
It's, actually, honestly, looking back at that, I'm like, I feel like I spent, like, weeks and weeks talking about the evolution sequence time, and it's like, now, does it even matter? Like...
No. But I think Sora is a character that requires a specific kind of care to make her stand out, because none of her like attributes are really like, what the style that the show is going for.
Yeah.
With all the other characters' problems, they're very like shonen show problems, where like Tai is the leader who loses friends and have to go save them. Yamato on and off is, protective big brother who wants to protect. Koshiro doesn't believe in himself, and then he believes in himself. Joe, kind of similar. TK and Kari, I feel like have spent most of the series like possessed, and then with their cute mascot Digimon. But Sora, like, her big things is that she's kind of unsure in herself, and like in the previous series, she had relationship issues with her mom, and like the show is uninterested in diving into any of that. So her being left behind to deal with problems that are mostly off screen is like a perfect representation of how she's been treated in the show so far. Like, I came to the conclusion watching this, like, Sora's probably the biggest indicator of the show's problems.
Yeah, it's like, even when she's there, this last chunk of episodes, it's like, is she really there? Like, she's just kind of along for the ride, and doesn't really have any conflict, any focus, and it's kind of just... I appreciate when she gets, like, I don't know, they're very few and far between, but like moments like very early on when she like was just really excited to have a knife and like was competent and had like camping gear and stuff. And I guess I look back fondly on that early stage and hope that would be kind of how her character would be tweaked for this version of the show. But yeah, it just doesn't fit with the sensibilities of the show, so she kind of fades to the background. And that's not, I guess that kind of is not unique to her, because like all the characters kind of fade to the background. But yeah, I think that's something this episode has, because this episode is controversial and seems to, a lot of people seem down on it, and I think the main thing they're upset about is the upstaging of Koshiro, this like a Koshiro focus episode, and yet it focuses on a like premiere debut evolution, a second mega evolution for Taichi before anyone else has a mega evolution. And I'm conflicted about that, because I do agree with that base sentiment that it's upstaging him, but I also think that there's something interesting in the potential of like this being like a Koshiro focused Taichi evolution, if that makes sense. Like I feel like, I guess I had a theory last week that like once Blitz Greymon was in the preview for this week, that like this would be some kind of like character based thing, that Taichi's bond with Koshiro would be what formed Blitz Greymon. Turns out no, it was just electricity, but which is also a cool thing that they're like leaning more into the like quote unquote evolution aspect of Digivolution, that like it's about Digimon adapting to their environment and stuff, and like in the underwater stuff, the underwater Digimon adapt to their environment, and here the electricity Digimon are adapting to their environment. And Blitz Greymon is an evolution formed of Metal Grandma adapting to his environment.
And on and on a similar note, it's like it kind of feels like Patamon evolving into Pegasmon is like his like casual evolution, but like to Angemon, you really got to want it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's kind of cool. I really like the range of evolutions, and one of my biggest problems with the series, especially in like the first 20, were the fact that the evolutions were like boom, 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 boom. Everybody got one. The next episode, the next person got one. And then this one, like, while I don't think it's necessarily better that they're like, okay, we got War Greymon and y'all can get, Metal Garurumon whenever. I do think it adds a little bit of surprise to the show, because I absolutely expected the next episode to be like, okay, here's Metal Garurumon. So yeah, I think it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's surprising in this episode was how, like, Taichi did upstage Koshiro in some ways, but also the fact that, like, the episode starts off with basically Koshiro talking about how he's there to support Taichi, and, like, he's just a supporting player, and in the end, even though Taichi gets a big evolution, with that big evolution, all he does is stall the enemy and send Koshiro higher, and then Koshiro is the one who gets the big dramatic moment in the end. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's definitely a like Koshiro. I feel like is probably the character with the most development so far. Because like even like in the last Kawagamon episode, Koshiro had his big like, "Am I useless?" And then he realized he was part of a team. And then in this episode, he was like, "Well, I'm part of a team. I'm not like the leader." And Taichi's like, "No, get the knockout punch, dog." So that's kind of a cool progression, even though I can understand why War Greymon getting or Agumon getting yet another mega evolution, and then we get Atler Gabuterimon with the golden shadow of Hercules Gabuterimon over it can be kind of like frustrating. I get where it's coming from like a character standpoint, and I like Koshiro enough that I always enjoy seeing him like get these moments of like, I am confident, I'm Koshiro, I'm good at stuff.
yeah. Looking at it optimistically, which maybe the show hasn't really earned at this point.
No.
My hope is that, like, by having an episode like this where Taichi gets an alternate evolution and Koshiro gets focused but not his mega evolution, that the aim of that is to give Koshiro multiple focus episodes. That he gets this episode, doesn't get the evolution, and then a couple episodes from now he'll also get another episode where he actually gets the evolution.
Yeah.
Which, I guess could have been done without one of those episodes splitting focus with Taichi, but I mean, I think it's cool and exciting for the franchise to have Taichi have multiple branching evolutions, so I guess I'm in favor of that in the long run. But I really think it depends on how that factors into things, because I keep hoping for the crazy format of like Taichi getting like several of these evolutions, and then like being this low like wide cast of alternate Greymons. But it might just be Blitz Greymon as the one alternate, and then Metal Garurumon also gets one alternate, and they make the alternate, well, no, the Omegamon Alter S version, which is the form that takes Blitz Greymon and Crest Garurumon, which is probably what's going to happen. It's probably going to be that simple, but I think it'd be really cool to have a War Greymon variant for every partner that he's kind of tied with. But I mean,
I just kind of feel bad for whoever Toei and Bandai are working with to create the models, because they're like, we finally shipped out the War Greymons. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, guess what? We got this just War Greymon, but he's red. No, it's Blitz Greymon. We need 1,000.
I mean, if they sell more toys, that's hopefully it's a good thing.
I hope so. I have no idea. It's, again, like with most things in the show, like I said, it's a mixed bag. We're like, on paper, it's kind of like, but if you're optimistic, I look forward to seeing where it's going. There's still like 30 episodes left in the show, I think.
Yeah. One thing that this this elaborate sequence of them flying higher and the each kid basically successively being left behind reminded me of was the sequence from Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, where I don't know if you've seen the movie.
I have, a long time ago.
Where they're flying, where they're fighting like a Bahamut that's been summoned, and Cloud gets like tossed higher and higher into the sky, and like each character like jumps up and then like tosses him higher, and it makes no sense physics wise, but I thought that was really cool when I was like 15. So
I think them going higher and like spending like so many episodes just like going places, and I often forget while I'm watching, like, where are they going? What are they doing?
Why are they doing this? Like, what's going on? Like, what's the point of this?
So I guess like flying up in the sky for a little bit is a way to like kind of put a pause on like, the eventual destination, which they should have reached by now because they've spent 5 episodes just milling around in their dog cars. So
yeah, this arc in general is like a weird, like everyone's headed, or I mean, the main crew is headed on this like Gatamon or Tailmon is like this dead set on like we have to go, like let's go the most directly, let's go there as fast as possible. Meanwhile, everyone else, like Yamato, Joe, and Mimi are like off on their own doing their own thing,
yeah,
and presumably are going to get picked up by a Commandamon eventually, and like probably will meet up with them. But like, how does that factor into the fact that Tailmon was like rushing forward to get there as fast as possible? Meanwhile, they're just off sitting around and like they're going to meet up. That doesn't make sense. But
I kind of like the fact that Koshiro was just sitting on his laptop in the middle of a field. Just like I remember when they first got separated, or they second got, or they this is the third time they've gotten separated in the show. I think, yeah, he was all like hiding from enemy Digimon. In this episode, they find him and he's just squatting out there in the in the middle of a Fallout 4 location, just playing on his laptop, watching satellites.
yeah, for a while he was like flying like over battlefields or like through battlefields and stuff, and now it's like as soon as other characters need to pick him up, he's just alone in the middle of nowhere. So very convenient. There's a lot about this episode that did not make any sense to me. This whole plan of I mean, this whole pillar of light that, like you said, comes out of nowhere and is never mentioned before, which like would have been easy to mention before if Koshiro has been in this location for a while. Like they could have seen him looking out at it before or something, or like visualized on his laptop or something to seed the idea. But instead, it's just like, oh yeah, these Digimon, these old ancient Digimon, fought so hard that they tore a rift in reality. Which okay, that's a cool concept, but it really stretches plausibility even for this weird digital world set of mechanics, because like you can't really envision two giant Digimon fighting so hard they leave fossils, cool.
Yeah.
Tear fabric of reality, also cool, but making a giant electric pillar of light, that's weird.
Yeah. The fossils thing was kind of weird because, like, obviously when most Digimon die, they just kind of explode into cubes. But this is like the second time in recent history that we've seen like fossils of Digimon, like because Marine Angemon's like ship was a big whale fossil, and like this and these two, like, is there a thing that where they get so big that they don't explode into computer bits?
I mean, that's what was it Patamon said? And as soon as Patamon said it, I was like, well, that doesn't flow logically, but I guess you're insisting it, so I guess I'll believe you.
Well, there's been a lot of this in like the past like arc of like Digimon eating Digimon, which they explode into like cubes. So is it like, are they eating like their like digital life force, or what's happening? Because they just like spread around and then they get reborn, which should be their life force, I guess. But I don't know. If you get eaten, do you not get to come back?
I am uncertain. I mean, I'm also uncertain how they come back at all, because we have seen an egg being formed, and we've been told that they like don't retain their memories when eggs are formed, but like we haven't seen the like primary village equivalent for the season to like see how they actually get reborn.
I thought that was going to be the instead of the ship thing when I saw all the cute little Digimon.
Oh,
I thought that was going to be the primary thing, and that like Marine Angemon was like taking care of all of them under the sea or whatever. That was going to be like the little baby place, but it wasn't. It was just a place to hang out with the giant penguin thing.
Yeah, I guess the concept of primary village doesn't fit so well with this new continent that they're on, where it's like dog eat dog, evolution focused kind of brutal, realistic world.
It's very like again, like back in when this started, the first episode where they were in Digital World proper, where they kept fighting all these like dinosaur themed Digimon, or kept seeing them, and like I feel like that's been coming back too, because there's so many like big beast Digimon eating other big beast Digimon, and I get it. It's very like Lost World, very unclean, and like it makes it like having all of these like different ones interacting and like pursuing and fighting, and like the same episode is cool because it kind of breaks the change of, okay, we met a new bad Digimon today, we got to stop them, next episode repeat. It makes it feel a little more lively, but I still wonder about like if it makes sense, so how all this stuff works. So
yeah, but in terms of things making sense or not, the biggest thing that stands out for me this episode is just the like Koshiro's plan to me makes no sense, and like the more I think about it, the less it makes sense.
I feel like Koshiro has spent like he's spent about like the last 20 episodes monitoring different imminent disasters on his computer. And the last one was like the ship's, about to break up, and then they were like, we'll send distress signals and they send them out to each other, which I guess worked or whatever. And in this one, like they introduced this like space station, and then every episode they'd be like, it's something's happening, and then they landed in Tokyo Bay, which would have destroyed the island nation of Japan. But yeah, I feel like with a show with this much like action and this many like big stakes by the end of each episode, or just stakes by the end of each episode, they should have like a more fluent idea of what they're doing with Koshiro, rather than having him just like sit around and talk about like, just baffled at what's going on his computer until he kind of figures it out and it happens. Then there's not really an explanation about why it happened. But
yeah, I think the general formula, what's been going on with Koshiro this arc at least, has been, I think it's kind of a neat idea for the kind of like for the formula of the show, which seems very like jumping around week to week, focusing on a different thing each week, and like not really having much of a through line with what's really going on. It's like, oh, different villain pops up, they fight it, move on, new villain pops up, fight it, move on. But like each of those episodes, there's like a little check-in. Koshiro's like, by the way, this thing's happening, by the way, the thing's happening, and they keep reminding you, and then it's like, and the thing finally happened, and it's like, wow, they had so much foresight, they planned that, and it's like, I think that kind of works for a younger audience. That isn't as doesn't have as high standards, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of, I think that kind of works for what they're going for. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just disappointed because I thought the logic of like what's the logic of the problem with the ISS makes a lot of sense. So like, oh, these other satellites are going out of control. Oh, they're not just going out of control randomly. They're heading towards the ISS. Oh, they're going to crash into the ISS and then make it fall. And that's kind of like, okay, that imminent disaster. Everyone understands why that's bad.
Yeah.
But then like, oh, I found this rift in digital world. It happens right where I am. If you fly up through this rift, you'll have like a brief point of contact with the network. And if you shoot something in the network as it happens to fly through, which I am confused if the thing flying through the network has any direct equivalence to the satellite falling through reality, through the real world or not, or if it's just unrelated. And so if you shoot that thing in the network when it briefly flies through, then that will somehow change the trajectory of the satellite, which the best thing I can logic theory what's actually happening there is that like the whatever those little Digimon are, like were corrupting some control system, and then Koshiro's attack wiped them out, and then the control system went back online. Then it was able to briefly, like the efforts of the professional people that were trying to save the day, that it finally worked, and they were able to divert at the last minute. But it's such strange, weird, complex logic for what, like I was saying, like I think it works best when it's like kids who don't really have enough attention span to follow what's going on, and then instead this episode just introduces this like I don't know, I guess it's a cool action set piece if you don't think about it, and maybe that's all that matters.
Yeah, again, it's like they've been ever since like the first episode where they were like, there's a missile. It like wasn't like the first plot, like an overarching plot of like the show. There's a missile heading toward Japan during the blackout.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know, I'd love to have a break from that.
Like, oh, disaster's coming, oh, there's a countdown, we need to defeat the disaster before it arrives.
Yeah,
okay,
this is like the fourth countdown.
Yeah.
Because they also did the countdown of like what was his name, that first mega level Digimon they fought.
Oh yeah, like Nidhogmon.
There was another countdown for there. This is the fourth one of the show, the fourth overarching countdown.
Yeah,
which is, again, Digimon Adventure 2020. A lot of cool stuff I like about it, but I'm not as fond of this.
Yeah, and speaking of those other countdowns, like they explicitly call back to that first one with Omegamon. The first, like the 3-episode one.
Yeah.
And I remember back when that happened, and I was caught up in how well things were executed, that I thought the show was a smart, well-written show, that like in episode 3 when Taichi basically just like believes hard enough and Omegamon just attacks a vague metaphorical thing, and then that makes the missile turn back around. That was like my biggest problem with things, and I was like, that doesn't really make any sense, but okay.
Yeah.
And like now they look back on that and Taichi's like, I have no idea what I did. And it's like, great, okay, I guess
awesome.
Guess it's
I
good
love
the
that
show is
line.
acknowledging that he had no idea what happened. Like,
spoken like a true fourth grader.
Yeah, and I guess I'm kind of, one way in which I'm kind of like accepting what the show's focus has become is that it's more a lot more like a typical shonen manga or anime that has like a primary main character, and the rest of the cast is more tertiary, and like they're important, but like no one's really directly competing with the main character for the main spotlight.
Yeah, it's very I mean, like reading interviews with like the writers, directors, and like producers of the original show, like one of their big goals was like, if we want to do an episode that doesn't focus on Taichi, the ratings won't go down. So that's why they built up everybody like they did. But this show does not have that same concern. So it feels like I think it's very like I've written about like how Digimon the Digimon Adventure reboot is kind of Digimon through more of like the lens of say like Dragon Ball Z, and I think it's becoming more and more apt because again, especially in this kind of show, getting like multiple War Greymon forms or multiple Metal Greymon forms seems very akin to like, well, there's Super Saiyan Goku, but that's Ultra Instinct Goku, but that's Super Saiyan God Goku. And it's all these different like kinds, and I definitely feel like they can do that now in the span of like 36 episodes now than back in 1999 when people were still like, okay, first thing you gotta know about Digimon is that it's the anime, it's not Pokemon, and we're gonna take this as easy as possible. They get one evolution each, that's it. So yeah, it does feel a little more like taking a more shonen approach to it.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar about Dragon Ball myself, but the thing it reminds me of is like, I don't know, like One Piece has lots of characters who shuffle in or out based on the arc, but Luffy's always there. But I feel like those shows and those series that I think they start off at that point, and that's kind of the expectation everyone has going into it. This reboot is weird because we all, as the returning fans, are used to the old show, which was much more of an ensemble, more equal weight to each character.
Yeah.
Not exactly like Taichi still had the most screen time, but we kind of expect that relative equality. So it's kind of disappointing, but I guess it remains to be seen. We'll see how much cultural impact the season has on like the new generation, to see if it leaves an imprint on the new generation, which hopefully it does. But
I have no idea.
Yeah. We have to just wait for them to grow up, I guess, and see.
Yeah, wait. We'll have to wait to listen to their podcast about it 20 years from now, where they're like, Digimon Adventure 2040 is a failure compared to the original. Back in my day, Tai was the only character we cared about, and it was better that way.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to mention about this episode is I've seen a couple people point out how absurd it is that like they explicitly call out how much time is left in the countdown, and this is. I think they also messed this up with that Nidagumon episode where like they were explicitly mentioning how much time is left in the clock, and you could like time would flow so randomly in that one because like they mentioned it several times, and it was just like, okay, now like 10 minutes have passed in the span of 10 seconds, but like now it's slowed down. In this one, it's like the big egregious thing is that before they jump off, Koshiro like, we have 20 minutes left, and there's a bunch of evolutions, and they just get, like they're not that far off the ground, and then Taichi's like, okay, how much time do we have left? And Kushiro's like 5 minutes, or sorry, 15. So it's like 5 minutes have gone down where all they've done is evolve, and then I tried to be generous and say that like, okay, maybe this is like kind of awkwardly stitched together and like was storyboarded with more of an idea of like they were flying for a while and then Taichi's checking in. But after Koshiro says, okay, 15 minutes left, Taichi's like, okay, let's begin the operation. So it's like, okay, they even, I don't know, it's not, that's not executed well, but yeah, so I've seen people point out how like, yeah, the show is acknowledging that like they just spent 5 minutes of in world time watching them evolve, I guess. Which is weird because like for the viewer it's only a minute of screen time, but still it's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into some through reviews. So Jason26 said Koshiro's a nice kid.
He is.
Yep.
Ursum Rublick says Koshiro was awesome. He was awesome.
Yeah, and now I feel bad that we didn't really talk about his like character development at all, because he did get like a moment of introspection and looking back and like,
yo, what if you know how like the original series was all about like Tai and Yamato and they trying to be leader? My dream Digimon series is now like Koshiro has been urged on by Taichi to take a leadership role, and now it's Koshiro versus Taichi trying to be leader of the group. That would be so good.
That now for some reason that planted in my mind the Seeing what's the most recent thing? Oh, the Powerpuff Girls
Hmm.
dark gritty reboot that's on the
Yeah.
horizon. Like, I imagine like a dark gritty Digimon reboot where it's like Koshiro is like, ah, I hate how Taichi's the leader. Like, I just want to murder him. And like, like the Riverdale treatment somehow. But
Yeah, I'd watch it. Yeah,
it would be interesting at least.
yeah,
But no, I think that any way in which like Koshiro can be more center is I think pretty interesting.
yeah,
And this I think the I'm in favor of this episode having like Koshiro reflect back on like how he was more of a loner, and it makes me think back to that first episode. And I really liked Koshiro opening up to Taichi as soon as Taichi like reached
hmm,
out to him for help and stuff. But I don't know. It's a little sad that it's like very stereotypical nerd betrayal or not betrayal, very stereotypical nerd portrayal that like,
yeah,
oh, this smart guy like doesn't want to talk to people and like doesn't really have friends, and now he has friends, and it's like I just feel like the original adventure was a bit more nuanced and interesting in its characterization. It wasn't so stereotypical.
yeah.
That's a little bit disappointing.
I think one thing that the original adventure had was there was always like a sense of like when Joe climbs the mountain to kind of like prove himself in
Mhm.
like episode 7 or 8 because he takes like their jibes about his like cowardliness to heart, you know, and then he climbs the mountain because he has like such like insecurity about it. But the moral of it was always like, Joe, we like you. You know, we're kind of ragging on everyone. We're making, you know, this happens, but you're a good guy. You know, I kind of I thought that was kind of a cool treatment of the fact that, you know, they like everybody was like, what's this computer here? Izzy, how do you use a computer? Or whatever. But there was never like, oh, Izzy's the nerd of the group, which they don't do here. But I especially liked how they treated in the beginning, where like they're like, oh well, we don't understand computers, but we really like Izzy. So, but yeah, I think it's a little, we see it a little too much where it's like he's into computers, but not into social interaction. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like talking about Joe's his whole thing with that like climbing the mountain early on in the original adventure reminded me of I've been rewatching Lost recently,
Mm,
and I think the original adventure has something in common with Lost or early Lost at least, which was like basically introducing these character archetypes that you think you know because they're very stereotypical, but then
mhm.
like slowly pulling back the curtain and like the moral of the first couple seasons of Lost is always like you thought you knew this person, but there's more to the picture and there's more to them. Almost stereotypically so in the first season where it's like this character is one way. I'll wait until the flashback episode where it's obvious that like they're going to be the complete opposite by the end of it once you see more of their backstory. And Adventure isn't that extreme, but there is a pretty strong undercurrent of that where like okay, you think he's like stereotypical nerd, you think his problems are going to be with being a nerd, and it's like no, his problems are really like that family situation that you have no idea about.
Yeah,
You know, like Joe you think is going to be like a stereotypical worrywart and like you know, just focus on studying, and like he is, but he's also really trying to protect the group and like lead everyone and stuff. And
yeah,
Sora, you think is like she's just like so kind-hearted and she loves everyone. Oh no, she actually has lots of problems with loving people and like
yeah.
because of issues with her mom and stuff. So like everyone has more to the story once you peel back a little bit. And I feel like in contrast, this show is more like kind of what you see is what you get.
You never have like the moment where Ty and Matt get separated together and then they start fist fighting and then Matt starts crying because the reason he's like been so like distant and pissed off is because he's worried about TK 24/7. And this show really hasn't had a moment like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's more surface level, and that's you know, like those articles that you wrote that like looking at the production interviews and stuff. It's like that's clearly what they're going for, and so it's
Mhm.
not like it's an accident.
Yeah,
But it's a little bit disappointing.
yeah. But luckily, we always have the original adventure. So
Yeah, yeah. All right, so back to the three
okay,
reviews.
yeah.
Appboard individual said Mega Kabuterimon should have evolved. Yep.
Dak and Jackster said Bug Zapper Greymon, which is a dig.
Yeah, yeah. At Dot Yawning said Blitz Greymon's debut. Shocking.
Ooh, Lucas Kukas said Blitz Greymon kind of sucks.
I
I think he is I think he's cool looking.
Yeah, I think he looks cool. And one thing that I find like makes me think that he didn't upstage the show too much is that like he didn't get if Taichi got multiple fancy like we already have the disparity between like Taichi's evolutions looking like getting elaborate sequences and no one else getting elaborate sequences.
Hmm.
But if Taichi got multiple elaborate sequences and no one else did, that would be extremely frustrating. And in
Yeah,
contrast, Blitzgreymon basically gets the Bergemon treatment where there's a wall of fire and Blitzgreymon just pokes through. So
Yeah.
like I at least appreciate that, like, okay, Blitzgreymon had his debut this episode, but it wasn't in this grand, elaborately animated sequence. It was like,
Yeah, he didn't get a big Sakuga moment.
yeah.
He
Which, now I think about it, it's weird praise for the show to be like, well, it's good this wasn't animated well. Like,
that is weird.
but yeah, next review from at Waldo ARGX. Blitz is awesome.
Pastamon Art says possible Omega Alt S. We talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Joseph Gnosis said, I loved this. Good to get some positive feedback in there.
CC Takato said, where is Yamato? Standing somewhere, probably.
Probably moving, probably running. But to where, from where, who cares?
Yeah, no one knows.
At Golden Pelt said, new evolution upstaged.
Holy Suka Woman said, teasing megas? Huh?
Yeah. I got that little golden shadow of Hercules Kabutorimon, but oh well. At Ancient Erismon, Bergemon has knife. And they included the photo of Bergemon holding the Blade Quagamon.
Yeah. Bergemon and Grudemon got stabbed all the time in this show.
Yeah.
Or this episode. Bojack90 says, tase him, Blitzgreymon.
And at NNN Podcast said Operation Desert Bus. And I think this is referring to the fact that they're like, all just trying to fly upwards and like someone get left behind and like they're just trying to go straight the whole time.
Yeah.
But I only know about Desert Bus vaguely from the Loading Ready Run streams, but I haven't watched those in a long time. So
Gigadramon 2022 says Bethesda bugged server. And the immediate thing this reminded me of is not the bug server, but the fact that them flying up around this waypoint in the show it reminds me of every time like I've been like, go somewhere to start the quest, and I'm like jumping around like the area, like where is the load up cutscene? Like where is this? Like how do I trigger this off? And maybe that's the whole thing of the show. They just kept flying up there, hoping that the quest would launch.
Yeah. And last one from Andy Lucas OE said, prefer Jeff's idea. So that's probably referring to my idea from last week that they would be more, the Blitzgreymon would be more character focused based on like Koshirio's influence. It's ironic because I was like, I didn't have anything explicit in mind, but I was thinking maybe Koshirio's crest would flash on screen when Blitzgreymon evolved. Mm-hmm. And it turned out there was a big moment where Koshirio's crest flashed on screen, but it was on screen at like NASA instead.
That would be the man. If I worked at NASA, I'd be so pissed.
It's such a weird thing, but
yeah, it's like I get what it's going for, but also it'd be like it'd be like if I was on computers monitoring a situation and then like a symbol I had no idea the context for or the meaning from like started blocking my view of the satellite crashing into one of the most populous nations in the world. I think I'd probably freak out. It'd be less of a beautiful moment for me personally.
Yeah, on that note, let's get to some listener questions and comments. So this first one on that note is from at Lucas Kukas, and they said, I was disappointed that they spoiled Blitzgreymon in the Digimon Analyzer preview last week, but honestly the reveal was so underwhelming that I kind of think seeing it blind would have been even worse. Also, Koshirio's crest becoming a watermark on the ISS thing is probably the silliest thing I've ever seen in Digimon. And yeah, like you were saying, like, I mean, if you treat it realistically, like it kind of feels like a hacker leaving a call sign or something. Like they really should be like, who hacked into NASA and left the signal and is like an international criminal that they should be chasing down. But I guess they saved the day, so
yeah, it's all cool.
Yeah. And rewinding a little bit, there was a comment from last week that I had a little bit of slandered Hey Digimon a little bit because I went back and rewatched the sequence of Angelomon debuting in the original show, and was kind of like, oh, that was so much better. But also the Hey Digimon in that sequence was awkward.
Yeah.
And so Andy Lucas OE, and I'll have a link to this in the show notes, basically took that audio from the original adventure with the Hey Digimon song included and played it over Angelomon's debut in this show.
Yeah.
And insisted that, well, they insist that it definitely hits different, hits harder, but we'll leave it up to the viewer to decide.
Hey Digimon I'm pro Hey Digimon. But Hey Digimon is the most hilariously, like as child me thought it was great. Adult me thinks it's great, but that doesn't mean that like it's not like the most hilariously inserted song in the franchise, because it would like like it would be like the characters could be like covered in blood, and like the villainous Digimon is like on his last legs, and it's been like the hardest battle in the world. And then those drums, boom, 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 Jack Jaw, hey Digimon, hey Digimon. And immediately the tone, like you're like, yeah, this is cool, this is important right now, this is necessary. But it was always like, again, when I was looking, it was like my favorite song. I didn't listen to a lot of music, so like the Digimon theme and then Hey Digimon were like the two songs. And yeah, I love Hey Digimon, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it when I think back on Hey Digimon, the moments that I remember are like when it like feels logical, when it fits in like when there's actually a celebratory moment and it plays and it's celebratory, and then the moments where it's like Angelmon's debut, I'm like, this is not quite that same kind of celebratory.
Wizardmon's dead. It's like his little funeral march.
Right, he just died, and
He
it's
just
like,
died
hey
in your
Digimon,
arms,
hey
and
Digimon.
boo-doo.
Yeah, so I guess it's good that the moments where it worked well stuck in my memory, and the moments where it didn't, I just ignored it. So selective memory works well. But yeah, next comment from at Rafi the Sky 18 said, "This is basically the episode. This is basically that episode with Eldoradimon falling down for the entire episode, but now they're flying upwards for the entire episode. LOL, I love it. I'm in the minority that enjoyed both those episodes." So,
Where did Eldron go?
I got sucked
Did
up
he
by
get?
that vortex along
Oh
with
yeah.
Leomon.
Okay, yeah. Is that Leomon's death?
I unclear. I don't think so. I think he has to actually die on screen, and they're saving
In like
that.
in a big dramatic moment. But if that was Leomon's death, that's great. A plus Digimon Adventure.
There's a chance we're gonna maybe get him next week, actually, because he's at least in
Oh
the Digimon
yeah,
Analyzer for next week. But
yeah.
that'll be curious. Maybe the Digimon Analyzer will just be Koshiro confirming that he's dead. Like, oh, he died valiantly off screen.
He died valiantly off screen, and then like a joke about like, does he brush his hair? I'll find out next week.
And then Kabuterimon being like, I'm jealous of that hair.
I really like that, by the way. During the I posted about this on Twitter, but the Digimon Analyzer might be my favorite part of the show. After the new ending theme, which I meant to talk about, the new ending theme is great.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's very like, look at them palling around in a way that the series has not earned. But I love the Analyzer. Agumon being like, I turned into World Greymon and I put my big boy pants on. That's awesome. Good. I'm glad you described it that way, Agumon.
Yep. Well, next comment, Akhtar Rykit said, "It's yet another retread of the whole Summer Wars / O War Game plotline with them rushing against the clock to change the trajectory of something falling from the sky. Now with another meaningless evolution to boot. Erg. Yep. But hopefully the last of those." Which is also what I would have said during the last one, so we'll see.
Yep.
At Gigimon22 said, "When Koshiro's crest came up on the screens inside the government building, monitoring the ISS approach, I thought he was inadvertently started a Illuminati conspiracy of a secret shadow government overseeing the world's events. Combined with the nuke from the start of the season, where is Hypnos and Juggernaut? I'd love to see the humans begin to impact the digital world as they try to defend the human world. Maybe they release some ancient evil, maybe cause a natural disaster, or pull the kids back to the real world." That is a really good point that, like, it would be cool. We see all these, like, humans trying to help prevent these disasters too, and they're basically there to be like, Koshiro is needed because the government can't do it on their own.
Yeah.
But it would logically follow from all this that humans would want to defend more and like push back and accidentally push back too hard. But yeah, it doesn't really kind of show that is so. I don't think so.
I feel like that's a really cool idea, because there's been quite a few times where the humans are left being like, what happened? Wasn't the world going to end just now? And then Hey Digimon played and it didn't happen anymore. But yeah, I think that'd be kind of a cool origin story for humans getting involved in the digital world, where it's like, yo, there are way too many like unresolved near disasters being saved and mysterious marks on government computer screens.
Yeah, like I saw a lot of jokes going around about how the scene of the space station people watching, or not space, the space agencies watching on screen, and like the Koshiro symbol appearing, like reminding them of Ava and an angel descending or something. And yeah, I don't think this is going to be the kind of show that is all about introspection into what government does to young children when used in war. And like I mean, can't even trying to summarize Evangelion's themes in a minute is not going to work. So
Yeah, you could do it absolutely. Yeah, just if there's any show that you can summarize in a minute, 15 seconds.
yeah, and if you play Hey Digimon over it, then
Yeah, that's great, man. If Hey Digimon played, uh, somebody needs to edit that together.
oh
Hey
yeah,
Digimon playing during like the dual Eva sequence from like episode 8 or 9.
oh yeah.
Do it, somebody. I guess.
Now I'm also imagining like sequences from End of Evangelion, like while the world's collapsing. Hey Digimon, hey Digimon.
Congrats, everybody clapping in the end version. Hey, congratulations. Do. Hey Digimon, hey Digimon. That'd be so good.
Yeah, so someone should do it. And at Pastamon Art said, I just have to say I loved how Kabuterimon repeated Blade Kuwagamon. I like that they continue that rivalry between Kabuterimon and Kuwagamon, although it was subtle. I think Tentomon is the most characterized Digimon. Of course, maybe I'm reading too deep on that simple dialogue thing. And no, I think definitely Kabuterimon and Tentomon are most characterized,
Yeah.
if only because they get to talk in the analyzer sequence a lot. So
And they get jokes. Yeah.
yeah, they get jokes, they get jealous. Like
The closest one is Agumon. Whenever Tai was like trying to beat up the computer, and Agumon was like, "I'm gonna hit it. Let me hit it. It'll fix it."
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, Tintamon and Koshiro definitely get the most.
And they also mentioned I found it curious how Agumon was all glowing after the evolution, and the Digivice seemed like it overcharged or something like that. I hope this hints at a plot point for the future or a new mechanic. And I doubt it. I think it was just showing that it was like electricity themed, so there's electric sparks and stuff. So
One thing that they have been doing a lot more in the recent episodes is showing the Digimon eating. That was super important in the original series about like how after a transformation you gotta get those carbs in. And for the first few episodes, I was like, they're not eating enough. That feels weird to say during like a monster of evolution / battle show, but it feels ingrained in Digimon of like, okay, you had a big battle, have some melons.
yeah, I guess this arc is more survivalist. Like they're actually like showing them like fending for themselves in the wilderness, and I guess
Yeah.
eating is more natural part of that.
Yeah.
So onto some quick questions. At Joseph Nosef said, "Does Koshiro have a crush on Taichi?" And as much as I want to headcanon that, I think we've gotten less and less evidence for that over time.
Yeah.
Like early on in the first episode, I was like, "Oh, maybe, maybe, maybe." No, less and less.
If he does, cool. Why not?
Yeah. Kurita Prime said, "How long till Omegamon Alter S shows up?" I give it 3 weeks, and I think it'll be a while. Like we haven't gotten Metal Gurumon at all, so
Next
we need
episode.
Metal Gurumon and then Metal Gurumon's alternate form, and then them combining in some big dramatic moment. And I don't know. It's the timing of the. I've been trying to like read into the timing of the card game booster packs because like I mean the fourth booster pack is called Great Legend, great being like great as in Greymon, great.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a bunch of different alternate Greymon forms, including like War Greymon, Rise Greymon, Victor Greymon, a whole bunch of Greymons. And then booster pack 5 is Battle of Omega with a bunch of different, well, not a bunch of different, basically it's Omegamon and Omegamon's Warped D.
Yeah.
And so like those both seem like things that are relevant for the future trajectory of the show, where like a bunch of Greymons, a bunch of Omegamons, both seems like things where the show could be heading. And I don't know, I feel like it has to do one of those. I don't think it can do both. I think it's either going to lean into having lots of different Greymons or one big alternate Omegamon. But in terms of timing, it's like that Battle of Omega booster pack is coming out pretty soon in Japan, I think by the end of the month. So I don't know. I feel like it'll be kind of weird if Alter S is this big like series culminating moment and it's like been in the card game for months at that point. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Maybe what will happen is like Omega will be corrupted first, and then Alter S will be like the purified form or something. But we will see eventually. So Atsushi Takado said, "How realistic is it the International Space Station could land in Tokyo Bay and not cause any damage?" And I did not think this was that implausible. Like, I was like, okay, it landed in water. Like, I mean, it might cause like a bit of a wave, but Andy Lucas OE on Twitter basically put in the math they give us that there's 16,000 feet, and then it has 4 minutes before landing, and it's 16,000 feet in the air, and put that into like a calculator online to see. And apparently, assuming it hits land, then it'll be a crater 690 meters wide with a force of 3.3 magnitude earthquake with 170 miles per hour winds. And it didn't fall in land, so that's not quite exactly what happened. But
well, it fell super close.
Yeah.
It felt like
I mean, even if it fell into the water, like I mean that still caused lots of damage and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all about how much does it stretch plausible deniability. So,
Yeah.
I think that was in terms of things that this episode raised questions in people's minds. I feel like that's the least of concerns, probably. Unfortunately. So, okay. So, last question came in from Holy Suka Woman, who I should explain because I feel like each week these two listeners have been playing games with changing their Twitter handles, and last week it was Megajimon and Gigajimon 22, and they had evolved into both being Mugenjimon, but one was Mugenjimon 22, or one was Mugenjimon, one was Mugendramon. But now one of them became Holy Sukawomon instead, which we will get to why at the end of the show. But Holy Sukawomon said, since War Greymon and now Hercules Kabuterimon have now been shown to have glowing silhouettes to foreshadow their arrival, it's safe to assume the other kids will get them. Do you prefer the silhouettes to the blind reveal forms of Adventure 99? And I think at this point, like we at least as savvy viewers or like returning people who have like seen the parts of the franchise, it's kind of obvious what the forms are going to be. So I feel like even if they didn't hint at it, it wouldn't really be blind. So it doesn't really. I think it makes sense to foreshadow.
I mean, I think it was like a way, like now that again, like if you know a few Digimon names and stuff, and if you watch parts of the series, like it's definitely like it's still a little bit of a rush to see like the references like that, or be like, oh, he's doing the thing, I know him. As a kid, when I watched it, like it was sort of blind reveals because like now that I've watched enough TV shows, I know that like an episode that features a character that's not like the lead character getting a bit of like a few more scenes means that something big's going to happen to it. Like The Walking Dead would like not have a character talk for like a year and a half, and then he'd be like, Rick, you do understand, right? That the zombies are us, which meant like, oh, this guy's going to bite it today.
Oh no, yeah.
And like so Digimon would be like, Izzy, why don't you know how to do anything? Okay, Izzy's gonna get he's gonna get a new evolution today. And that was a pretty hard and fast rule. But I think it's about the same. I don't know. I'm trying to remember when I was a little kid and like didn't know what was gonna happen in any episode or any given time. So I don't know. Maybe Ty. I'll say Ty.
Yeah. I think it like I don't think there's any inherent flaw in like the foreshadowing format. It's more that the pacing of that foreshadowing is what feels off
weird
here. Where like we had arcs where they were just like rapid fire pumping out evolutions.
Yeah.
So to now be like kind of coy with like, oh, what could this shadow be? It's like, okay, we all know. Like, what are you doing? Like, it feels a little bit awkward, but like that's not like the problem of the shadow itself.
Yeah.
And I think it's to me this shadow for Hercules Kabuterimon feels only fair given that War Greymon was teased multiple times. So
we've already seen shadows of Hercules Kabuterimon as well in all the Holy Digimon flashback stuff.
Yeah. So we've seen like their forms, and I kind of wish that had been like integrated into like moments with like Atler Kabuterimon before. Maybe when Atler Kabuterimon debuted, he like got a little like shadow of Hercules Kabuterimon as well back then. That would have been cool to like have it seeded throughout and not just like when he's on the cusp of evolving. But I mean, it's all right, I guess. Not the biggest problem.
Yeah.
But let's get into our final thoughts. If you had to rate this episode out of 5 cute goodbye howls from Commandamon, which, just side note, was a great moment, one of the best things of the episode. How would you rate it out of 5 stars, essentially?
3.
Middle of the road.
Yeah.
I think I'll go a little bit lower and give it a 2.5, just for the like starting off at a 3, but then like detracting some points for the whole scenario being like, what is going on? Why is this happening? And wanting to be excited about the Blitzgreymon reveal, but also being equally frustrated with it. So I could see myself looking back on this moment and thinking it was a cool concept they pulled off in the long run. But it's hard to have faith at this point. Yeah. And so who would your MVP of the episode be?
Can I have 2? An MVP of the episode and an MVP of the series who hasn't been talked about enough yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so my MVP of the episode is Taichi. What a good guy what a talented Digimon tamer to get the new cool Mega Evolution and be able to will his friend to character development. A good guy. A good friend does that. I'm being sarcastic, of course. Koshiro, because he's cool. I like Koshiro. He's my MVP. Anytime. Anytime that Gurumon's not on screen. My MVP of the series so far is Skull Knightmon / Dark Knightmon. That dude toiled in like final boss battle middle management for like 10 episodes. He was my dude. He never asked questions, just transporting the holy Digimon places. Was a great fighter. And then went down, just kind of standing there, which is a little disappointing after he had that awesome 2-on-1 fight in the last episode I was on with Metal Greymon and Gurumon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Where I think he like ran down Metal Greymon's arm or whatever, which is a scene I'm always kind of like an action sequence I'm always for.
And then just like was totally willing to sacrifice themselves.
Yeah, that dude is like you want a kind of that kind of guy on the team. But RIP to Skull Knightmon / Dark Knightmon. You deserved like a raise.
Yeah, I am so confused about those dynamics of like working for Devimon, but secretly Millenniumon, but also like I guess Devimon was like the local leader.
Devimon's the hometown team.
Yeah, like the brand, like the distant branch.
Yeah.
But I feel like we kind of with Tailmon like looking back on her time, like kind of possessed by / inhabiting / being Dark Knightmon, kind of like all of the above, kind of like I feel like that's kind of the end of the story.
But I think that's hilarious to look at Devimon as like a small time. He's not like he doesn't play for like the National League. He's like definitely like
he's like the regional manager. He's the
he's very much he's the Michael Scott of the Digimon world.
Yep.
And then Millenniumon is I don't know, NBC or whatever. I didn't know. Sometimes you like have jokes and you know where they're going, and the other times it's just like, well, you know what? Maybe we just end it here before you say something dumb on a podcast for everyone.
No, saying something dumb on a podcast for everyone is
it's how podcasts
my
work.
number one rule. So, so I'm trying to think of like MVP if I have a more interesting answer than just Koshiro. Yeah, I think it does have to just be Koshiro by default. I mean, this was not a stellar episode, and it was nice what he got. I don't think I mentioned so far that I find it bizarre and kind of frustrating how they repurposed that imagery of him floating in space from the original show for this completely different context. I try not to like be too biased about like, well, in the original show it meant this. How dare they use it for a different purpose here? Because like I think that's kind of some flawed logic and is not really fair because there are going to be lots of viewers who have not seen the original who are watching this, and like if it works for them, then so what if it came from a different context in the original show. But I don't think it made any sense in this context. Like it's kind of just a metaphor for him feeling socially distant.
But the biggest problem about him feeling socially distant is he's been by himself for like half the show. And like if they wanted to get across that he was like a nerd with insecurity issues about his placement with like friends and stuff and being the leader, then you should have him act off other people rather than just like sitting on his laptop in the middle of the apocalypse with Tentamon just being like, well, these satellites better work out because otherwise I won't get a plot. So yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it's
no, it's a good point.
It's a lot of like, it's very much like you guys don't realize that Koshiro was sad. And like, great, that happens with a lot of people. You don't know a lot of people are sad, but like in a fictional show, it would have been nice to like get hints and plot development toward that specific thing. So
yeah, if I'm being like generous, I'm thinking that like at least he was with Tentamon the whole time, so it's like they were building that like friendship with Tentamon. But I did feel like what they were aiming for was that he like is opening up to the rest of the kids as well, and they have not really shown that on screen because, like you said, he's been separated and off on his own and like just telling them instructions for most of the
everybody's lonely when they're by themselves.
Yeah. So it's kind of the show's own fault that they put him in that situation. So hard to sympathize.
That'd have been such a good ending if it was like, I've been lonely this whole time, and Tenemon's like, yeah, because we were out in the desert by ourselves. Me too.
Yeah, really what they should have done is like flown upwards high enough that they break the fourth wall and then like storm Toei offices and say like, give us screen time together. Let us all hang out with each other. But on to some hopefully greener pastures. Next episode is titled Mimi-chan Wars. Hopefully more of Mimi-chan Wars and not Mimi-chan Wars, because I hope this is not a 4chan episode, but
I am excited. I feel like I'm excited for this one. I'm excited for the next time we see Joe, because I'm glad that Joe being embarrassed in the hot tub full of Nanimon, and Mimi somehow endearing all these Digimon to her like personality and stuff is like one of my favorite things, because every all the main characters Tai just tries to bulldoze through things with his iron will and constantly just makes enemies left and right. And then you have Mimi, who doesn't really want to be in the digital world and acts like a princess according to everyone else, and everybody loves her. All the Digimon inevitably just like fall in love with her. They like her, maybe y'all should take Mimi's approach. So yeah, I'm excited for it too. I like the fact that I hope there's more references to the war and war game and war names and stuff, because Mimi-Chan War is definitely what Mamoru Hosoda intended back in '98.
Yeah, I am excited and interested for that. Like, I think, like you're saying, Mimi's the heart of the show. Mimi's almost always right. Like, she and I think it's interesting to take that Summer Wars or All War Game influence and make it about Mimi, and who a character who historically, at least in the original show, was very anti-violence, and see hopefully that's gonna be a relevant theme now, and not just like Mimi being like, I'm violence, yeah, cool, let's kill people. Hopefully that'll be a central conflict in some degree, but even if it's not, I think Mimi has levity and fun that almost all the other characters lack. So, and I don't know. I mean, having Leomon in the analyzer for that episode, like, Leomon's death was tied pretty closely to Mimi in the original show, so it's possible he comes back up for that episode. But yeah, of all the Digimon, we see a bunch of Digimon in the preview, including like some Gotsumon, a Goblimon that's kind of like whipping the Gotsumon, a Gogmamon, which was mentioned in the preview, and I had to look that up. It's like a crystal Digimon thing. There's a Golemon. There's also how do you pronounce this? Sunarizamon, who is I thought was a very bizarre name until I realized that it's Suna is the word for sand, and then Riza as in lizard, so it's the little lizard things. And so of all the Digimon, Gotsumon, Gabumon, Gogumamon, Golemon, lots of G's, and Sunarizamon, who do you think is going to talk? I think the Goblimon might be like issuing some orders, and and maybe the Gogumon's going to be threatening and like be kind of like evil, maybe some evil lines, but I think even that, I'm not so sure. I think maybe just Goblimon. That's my bet.
Yeah, I wonder in the eventual American dub who's going to have like the hey, Princess Mimi. I wonder who's going to have that role.
Yeah, I wonder like if it got a dub for this era, like, because I have no insight into like what kids television is like these days.
Yeah, me either.
I feel like they should be aiming towards the younger demographic, but I don't even know, would this appeal to
Yeah, it's for a younger demographic. Yeah, I don't know where it would fit, because it's very boys 6 to 11. But it's also like, hey, I hope you enjoy seeing your favorite Digimon get stabbed a lot, because that's definitely a part of the show that happens quite a bit. They've been really cutting apart some Digimon lately, and eating each other. But yeah, hopefully, I don't know, Digimon Adventure on Toonami or something.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, yeah, I guess that brings us to the end of the show. So last week's Digiprompt was, in honor of Angelomon's debut, what Digimon would you want to see get a Magical Girl evolution with a full Magical Girl transformation sequence? And my favorite response, there are a lot of good responses to this, a lot of really creative answers, but I kind of have to give it to, I think this was previously Mega Draymon 22, who has rebranded to Holy Sukawomon, because they propose Sukamon evolving into Holy Sukawomon, seeing the ugly duckling grow to something so beautiful, seeing beauty come from something told they're too gross, with a lemon magician girl-esque outfit. I think that's maybe referencing a Yu-Gi-Oh thing, maybe? Lemon Magician? That sounds like one of those like alternate Lemon Magician. Yeah, that's a Yu-Gi-Oh thing. I remember that from the recent movie, the like fruit themed Dark Magician Girl variants, but with a Lemon Magician-esque outfit, yellow nail polish, and flowing pink hair to reference Chumon. Also, her holy crossbow would fire poop. So that is a very interesting idea. And the reason I kind of have to give it to them is they actually commissioned an artist to draw this concept, and I'll have a link to it in the show notes. And it would totally work as a magical girl. And I think the concept of Sukamon becoming the Poop Digimon becoming a magical girl is a great concept. This week's Digiprompt is in honor of this week's electric-themed Greymon, and next episode's focus on Mimi. How would you design a plant-themed Greymon evolution? So hopefully some interesting ideas there. Hopefully it's not all, just throw some vines on Greymon. But yeah, send those responses or general feedback to potages@gmail.com, to @potages on Twitter, or in the episode comments on potages.com. Share the podcast with your friends who don't upstage you with a new evolution in the middle of your focus episode. And it would be awesome if you leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a minute, and each review helps a ton. If this is your first episode, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever else you find podcasts. And if you want to follow me on social media, I am @JefflinJeff on Twitter, and you can also check out my general anime podcast, Love It a Wee Bit, where this week we will be talking talking about the Eccentric Family, both seasons, which was a fun deep dive onto a show that I did not know anything about, and also talking about our anime of the year for 2020. So, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
If people want to find you on the digital world, where can they check you out?
At DanDoc on Twitter, DanDock. I'm on Crunchyroll pretty often. I got a few cool articles coming out from some other sites that I'll definitely be sharing on Twitter coming up. It's probably eventually some of it will be about Digimon. So
awesome.
Yeah,
cool. All right, so thank you everyone for listening, and I'll be back next week to talk about episode 37, Mimi-chan Wars. Bye.
Boo boo da boo. Hey Digimon, hey Digimon. That's what it would play. It would play right now.
Oh yeah. And remember, never stop digivolving.